51% pick rate there. But either way, folks, we are getting into it now. BDS versus DarkZero. So we'll start things out here on Coastline.
Well, if the fans were paying attention to our map rotation, they'd be pretty smart to lean towards BDS, at least in this first map, as there is a very impressive record specifically for BDS here on Coastline, looking at a 5-0 record in the past few months here, and plenty of bans coming from their opponents against it. DarkZero likes to play into this map, but from all the times I've seen it, I personally don't think that this is a very good map for them, and I think that they oftentimes get outwitted, especially on the attacking side. Obviously, it's SI, though, more than likely bringing a lot of new things and a lot more rehearsal on this specific map, so I'll hold my breath until we get further into the map and we see some more specifics coming out from DZ. Already working our way through the ban phase. Not a huge surprise. Obviously, the Finka ban coming in, that's something that we hadn't been seeing until recently, but it makes perfect sense considering the prevalence that Finka has been adding into the meta. She's been there for quite a few teams and quite a few compositions, becoming a consistent pick there, so it makes perfect sense to knock her out.
Yeah, high pick rate as well as just what the adrenal surges bring to the table with the ability to buff your teammates, give them health, pick them back up from across the map, everything else in between. She's just a fantastic operator at the current moment. Kaid going to follow suit here as the Thatcher Bam came through just to make sure some of these walls are a little bit easier to breach if DarkZero so chooses, but obviously that ban coming through for BDS. Either way, though, DarkZero going to be rocking the offensive side while BDS has defense to start us off here on Coastline. And the big thing right now, at least for the DarkZero side of things, is what we saw from them yesterday. You and I already talked about it a little bit, but I'd like to get a little bit deeper into this, especially with what we saw from Canadian and his constant carousel of operators that really didn't work out for him. Going pretty negative inside of his matchup yesterday, and the big issue with that is that Coastline and Chalet share a lot of similarities in the way that you work things on the offensive side. It's very aggressive. You're trying to punish the defense as much as possible for making those minor mistakes in their rotations. It's just one of those maps that your map control is paramount, and the way that you're going to work it on the offensive side really, shows as to whether you're going to actually win the map or not.
All right, so working our way into it here, we're going to get an interesting pick over, obviously, on the attacker side of things for DarkZero. So I'm going to bring an Osa into play. Osa, the most recent operator to be added into our poll. We did see one get picked earlier on today, I believe by Sandbox, if I remember correctly. And on top of that, we saw a couple picks inside of at least a North American qualifier as well from one of our teams here. So only just recently being added in, and you can see teams starting to experiment with it a little bit. I will say as well that DZ is Cyclops was the team that brought Osa in earlier. Thank you, production, for that correction there. But either way, DZ is definitely a team, and I noticed specifically on this map, they like to play around and bring some more unorthodox operators into play. Like, for instance, we get a Blitz pick every once in a while, if you look a couple months back for DarkZero as well, and they kind of were pushing towards that. So this is going to be something new that they try once again here by bringing the Osa into the fold.
Yes, indeed. And as you were saying, Osa, pretty unique operator. Close will be rocking the PDW. She has access to that, and as well as the 5.56 XI, which is the AR from Thermite. You get to see him used quite often whenever he is in play. But the PDW has got a deeper magazine, and when you're playing around a shield, that's just a lot more fun to use. We'll just keep it honest with you guys. Either way, though, DarkZero currently working on service here, and a very aggressive front from BDS, at least inside of this bathroom space. Canadian trying to catch some ankles of Shaiko as he moves back and forth inside of this area. And if there's one person that you have to be worried about playing inside of this space, it definitely has to be him.
You can see the attraction once again here. DarkZero specifically, again, Canadian keeping a close watch on that drone hole there to see if maybe they can catch a member of BDS lurking just a little bit too close to it as they try to throw in a few pieces of utility towards that bathroom, but ultimately doesn't lead to a whole lot here. BDS will not fall victim to it, and DarkZero will have to move themselves forward here. Lots of resistance still set up. We're going to see DarkZero start to work their way in upstairs as well to begin opening up some top-down angles with NGRMO specifically trying to slam the hammer down, but instead he gets slammed upwards by a Nitro Cell from Bride to take him out and give BDS the first kill of the game.
Rough sight here for DarkZero already as they'll lose the sledge, and that's the only soft destruction that they have on the entirety of this offense. Past that, they need Canadian to blow open the floor with Flores drones, and well, that's exactly what's going to happen, John, because there's no other way to actually open up this floor here and actually disrupt the BDS members downstairs inside of Kitchen, which is exactly what you have to do on this map. Already 2 minutes of DZ's time wasted as BDS are basically just sitting on their hands.
BDS continuing to waste out time. Shaiko just dashing through the bathrooms here as well to continue to hide behind that extra deployable he's got in front of him here. Panba does manage to sneak in, pick up the first kill against Bio, and a quick follow-up against Lems as well. So great recovery coming in, but Shaiko with his own response from the inside of the bathrooms, and a second to slam down Panba before he makes his forward momentum go any further. Down to just 2 now for DZ. It all falls to Hyper and Eclipse to clutch out this round in a 2v3.
BDS at the moment seeming more free-flowing than DarkZero, who seemingly stuck in their ways in the moment, a stick in the mud as Eclipse is still out here on the service door. Hyper trying to get aggressive inside of Courtyard as well. Renshiro currently over inside of Jungle. His shift gears over into Blue Bar and try and play out some more time. And speaking of time, it's dwindling. Shaiko holding things down on service. They need to get aggressive here, and that's exactly what Eclipse will do. Shaiko will lose his lunch. Can Eclipse get it done? He somehow ran out of bullets inside of the PDW, and Brede will be able to shut it down as BDS take the very first round.
Not enough of the initial pressure working out for DarkZero, and that on top of their soft breach being destroyed and a relative inability for anyone else to be able to properly use those top-down angles, make it a very, very easy affair for BDS to just hold off the horizontal push and secure their first round. So good trades from DarkZero. Valiant attempt considering the circumstances like that were thrown out against them, but still, the round very heftily falls into the favor of BDS, and they'll shoot up to a 1-0 lead as we'll head upstairs for our next site in a Hookah Billiards.
A certain patience from DarkZero, but a punished patience, I would say, especially with the way that they wanted to handle that top floor. And JR goes up there by himself initially and just gets blown sky high. He doesn't even get to swing the sledgehammer a singular time before losing his life. We see the Flores drones then committed to that space. Obviously, DZ's able to get it down into the 2 versus 2, but it really didn't mean that much at the end of the day, especially when you needed to plant with such a low time. They really didn't have any read as to where the remainder of the BDS members were. That makes things very difficult for them going forward into the site. Shaiko tries a little cheeky prone peek, and that's really it. Past that, BDS are able to just clean up the bodies and make it look pretty damn easy all at the same time. Coming into round 2 now, DarkZero not going to change things up too much. Canadian will for himself. He's going to move away from the Flores and bring Ace instead. Eclipse still going to be on Osa.
So I'm still going to try to work that. Never even got to see a deployment of either of the shields, I don't believe, inside of that first round there. I think he may have tried to sneak one out at the very end to open up an opportunity for him to put the case down, but did not end up happening. So we'll see if there's going to be some better use out of our kit going into the second round here. As obviously the site chose to be a little different, can still find some great use out of that shield, considering the entry route for our attackers as well. If they want to try and force the issue over towards Hookah, that's potentially a great area to get some forward momentum going, and we'll have to follow that and see here, as we can already see one of them deployed out to maybe start challenging that very doorway that I was just talking about.
Yes, indeed. And this is what I wanted to be seeing from Cyclops earlier. The way that they were using Osa's shields was a little dangerous because of the oh my goodness gracious, the animation that you have to go through to put the shield down. It actually makes her quite risky to actually do that in front of anybody. So I like what they're doing with the Hookah balcony here instead. Set the shield down, then break the door. You have that to play around outside, and this actually gives you some more space to be safe and try and contest places like Vase. It's basically like staring at each other with the exact same setup. No one's really going to be able to get anything out there unless possibly Renshiro can toss an impact and get rid of it. But we'll have to see exactly how this goes. Renshiro currently downstairs, as well as Shaiko, will be holding on to Sunrise for a time. The rest of BDS is upstairs around VIP as well as Vase. Practically stacked on top of each other because this part of the map is so very important right now. DarkZero looking into what's going on around the kitchen space, and as we get more of an update across the board, still got some bodies up and around the Hookah balcony. It's actually NJR to strike first onto Bios, who will lose his life with the ADS. Hyper actually will be able to get one as well. Pambazoo tagging on. Can he get the second? Shaiko taking a lot of damage and doesn't want to re-challenge as this F2 is so damning, and that's going to be a flawless round. Nades abound, guns hot, looking good for DarkZero in round 2.
What a turnaround from DZ as well there. The players over on BDS just having no idea of the momentum that DarkZero had already made, specifically inside of Kitchen, let alone the capability of the utility usage from DarkZero that would eventually come out there to give them those 2 great opening kills, and the dominoes just really continued to fall from there. The defensive setup from BDS never even really challenged as DarkZero just kill their way into a second round.
Yeah, big question is, where are the discs and where are the ADSs at? That's really it, as I believe three kills coming from frag grenades inside of that round. So, I mean, for BDS, they're probably trying to think about that one a little bit more, but honestly, they really don't need to use the tag timeout because their coach is in the game, so he can just grab the notes and be like, hey, we probably need to do this instead.
Probably going to say that in case things get a little bit too tense and players get a little emotional, can use that for like a cool-off period or something as well there. But as you were saying with the coaching game, not going to find much use out of an actual tactical pause to try and get the coach's input because they can always get it. So
just look to the middle seat. Bios, what do you think?
So we'll see what BDS is going to quickly adjust for, and they are going to reattempt the same site there, calling that last one off as a bit of a fluke and seeing if they can quickly go for the repeat here. Obviously hoping. Yeah. Just the verb, or I guess it's a noun, but
English language.
Yeah.
Very hard, very difficult indeed. But either way, for DarkZero, flawless round as we were just talking about, they're not going to be changing things up too much. Canadian's going to go back to the Flores drones, which can definitely be helpful here, but the mute jammers are obviously going to get in the way of that, especially around this space, which is important as we always have this contested up top. But this time, they're not going to have a deployable shield around the area. No deployable shields across the board here for BDS, so just going to have to try and stick to their guns around those 2 reinforcements and hope that the reinforcements overall hold up with those mute jammers.
I just love the triple ADS surrounding the mute jammers.
Well, we found where the ADSs are.
It's like
that apparently BDS
protected at all costs, that one mute jammer. And to be fair, that is a pretty important one, as it's obviously going to deny the potential hard breach opening of that, and that would completely give away the defensive positions. So to some extent, it makes sense to have it there. Just normally you would see that be spread out a tad more. Regardless, it should work out fine for the BDS roster here as DarkZero are beginning the process of the clear, and we can see why they want to defend that mute jammer so heavily, but unfortunately,
beautiful.
Not going to be able to do much about it as it walks right in, but yeah.
Oh no, it got jammed!
I don't even know because I heard it beeping, so it...
If you hop into the radius,
oh yeah, he probably jumped
it. Yeah, so very unfortunate there. He might try it again. I think he is actually. I ended up seeing that, but I think he ended up blowing up something else. I have to see exactly what it was, but definitely not going for that same base spot where all of that utility stacked up.
Unfortunate misstep there for DarkZero, but as you said, they now know the position of all that utility here, so can properly play around it, even if they aren't able to take it out with another one of those drones. Canadian is in the process of deploying one, so we'll hold our breath for a second. I think he's going to try to sneak it in towards Hookah. Let's see as he goes around towards the corner, and this one drops it in there. Let's see the counter, and this one's going to go off. Gets rid of it all. Nice little 4-piece utility. Knock that right out, and the usefulness of this operator continues to grow here as we see him used more and more inside of the meta as the main piece of utility clear. He's going to do that once again to pop open as much of this little mini bar as possible and make the hold behind the couch as uncomfortable as possible for the player currently taking up that position. Panba also gets the first kill of the round against Renshiro after about a minute and a half of delay.
Well, he's definitely achieved in making that an awkward situation for BDS when they're going to be trying to hold on to that. Alems with a very nice shot onto Pambazoo, who has been the most effective player along with DarkZero thus far. DarkZero will start working in towards Aqua Balcony. Eclipse is shifting away from Hookah and over towards Aqua himself as well, as this is starting to look more like a DZ Aqua take. More than likely going for a default plant sooner or later, but definitely not sooner. As NJR gets taken down by Shaiko, it seems as though they know what's coming, but they know Canadian has the counter angle inside of VIP.
Canadian continuing to set himself up for a potential push behind Eclipse in the deployment once again of those Osa shields. Second one now going down just at the precipice of the Aqua entrance to the site. Remember, they still have that second one down outside of the Hookah doorway as well. So if they're able to get plants down onto the ground, these would be 2 very powerful positions, but that's the issue. Need to get it down on the ground first, and Shaiko's just stolen away another life from the DarkZero side of things. Canadian walks right up to Bios, though, and takes his life away also. Eclipse will be able to try and sneak in the plant. Bride, though, leaps out, tries to stop the planter. Oh! Eclipse is going to be able to save his own life as he gets the follow-up in addition to that trade. Now the plant needs to be locked in place, though. Lem's just waiting for the null timer. Waltzing right up, and no, the reaction is allowed to happen, but it isn't quick enough. Lem still wins out the 1v1, and obviously there'll be plenty of time for the counter to fuse. Round 3 goes to BDS.
You want to talk about scary? Let's talk about scary for a second. When it comes down to the Roni and the amount of bullets that thing has in it now, whenever you see a gunfight that go that way, it is always terrifying. So luckily enough, he's able to take down the Osa, but Eclipse had a very solid chance at winning that round there inside of the 1 versus 1. But the damage dealt early by BDS was just enough to DarkZero to make this moment happen for Alems, and luckily enough for BDS, they'll grab their second round.
Right, so BDS securing themselves once again on the defensive side here for Coastline, and they're going to continue to shift around. Went for the second attempt on Hookah, like we said, calling off that kind of rush-in from DarkZero. Not even a rush, just a walk-in, really, from them in the second round, and quickly correcting for their mistakes to be able to win round 3. So they'll move right along. Kitchen is available to replay that one, but they're not going to feel the necessary need to go back to that just yet. They're going to try their double bar hold instead and see if they can win this one before potentially transitioning back on the round after this, as we now enter the second quarter of the matchup, the later part of this defensive half for BDS, excuse me. I like combine the team names there.
It is getting a little later here for us now, obviously, as BDS headed back towards double bar. Not going to be seeing anything too crazy. We'll have a Lems on Alibi. It'll more than likely be dedicated to a couple of windows around this basement space just because they don't want DarkZero to get such free entry like they did the last time. BDS played this on more of like a stacked kind of areas. They had a multitude of people down low trying to hold space inside of Sunrise with 2 bodies upstairs, and it was just so very easy for DZ to completely disrupt the process of what was going on. So, want to see if DZ can do it yet again here. They got a lot of the utility to be able to deal with all of these different things. The biggest thing right now is that all of Canadian's drones should strike true unless they're shot. Mostly because BDS does not have mute, so he won't be able to get in the way of that. All of these deployable shields and everything else, including the Banshees, are all for his taking.
That's what Mozzie, the defense, does, but those are fairly avoidable for the most part for an experienced player. Like we obviously have a full roster of on DarkZero, so unless he's rushing those through and not paying attention to that little warning that pops up before you go through like a doorway where they would normally be placed, then shouldn't have too much of an issue being able to avoid the pests.
Absolutely the case, my friend. Good catch as well. As Shaiko going to be the only way that they stop these Flores drones minus shooting them, to see exactly where he has these set up, because there's some very important areas for BDS to try and keep a hold of for the time being. For the first minute, DarkZero slow and steady as he'll be able to mark out an initial pest here on the hookah door. Hyper's already worked his way into 9D, and no, this isn't the fake. This one is, as he'll get that out and start droning himself ahead. Shaiko just going to hide away from the Gemini here as it'll finally get taken out. Pre-fires, but obviously nobody home on the hookah door here as BDS continue to waste this time. DarkZero really not making any forward progress, all except for the free space that BDS has already given.
Just not like realizing the possibility of stealing away the Rotero drones as well, and the chaos that could create for a defensive team, as I'm assuming you can throw the explosive out. So
it destroys them.
Oh, it does it? Okay.
Yeah, it like grabs it, does the little animation, is.
Oh man, okay. Because I hadn't actually seen it happen yet, so I was more curious about that. I was wondering, but yeah, if it just destroys it, never mind. That would probably be a little too chaotic for the attackers.
No, it'd be too fun.
It honestly would be great. Can you imagine if you just like, for instance, like you're trying to go at hookah, right? And you stolen one, you like hide it behind the bar. Team tries to execute. Not anymore. Here comes the Rotero drone.
Oh man, that would honestly be fantastic. And speaking of Rotero drones, we're gonna get another one from Canadian, and he'll blow the Banshee as well as the barbed wire to pieces. Probably looking for this deployable shield next, and he'll get it. None of those Mozzie pests inside of this space, so DarkZero doing a bang-up job of clearing out Sunrise for a plant later on. But big problem now is that they haven't drained any utility, as well as they really don't have the control around the kitchen space as of right now. Drone in, and actually the nade to counter it out. That's beautiful there from DZ, as Hyper had the angle on top of Vibes. Eclipse now taking some damage here from Alems, but this is also going to read into his location. Eclipse starting to push forward inside of Mud. He'll drop down the shield and starts to get pressured, and Eclipse gets absolutely slapped by Alems, who just does not allow that to happen. That's case down, and somebody's got to do something here. 13 seconds remaining. Canadian moving forward, but also being shot at from the counter angle. Alems is already stuffed up inside of this space. He'll get taken down by Canadian, who hops too. Shaiko will fall as well. Bios and Renshiro now down to the coach, and NJR gets him as well on the entry. Canadian with some fantastic calling there in the dying moments. That's what you expect from a hammer lifter.
A rush play, but indeed it works out for DarkZero as they have to struggle for every bit of control in those last 20 seconds. Didn't have a lot to work with, but they still are able to get it done off of some really good frag grenade utility, two which coming out there, one saving one of their teammates' lives, the one that killed the player down on Cool Vibes, and then a nice one as well to force the second player hiding by the pool door position out of it and into the open, where they could eventually take him down, flood the site, and overwhelm the stragglers from BDS as they tried to rotate into position. Beautiful stuff from DarkZero in a clutch situation, and that's going to tie up the game now at 2-2.
Yeah, BDS went from being A-okay to just being an open wound in this matter of like 15 seconds, just constantly bleeding and no way to stop it. Comes all the way down to BIOS, but he really can't do anything about that. BDS had a really good opportunity there to take that, especially with what they did with the smoke utility inside of that. They still had all of those smokes there, but the overcommitment into Sunrise, as well as how DarkZero played that with the aggression in through that space, worked out extremely, extremely well for them. And now we're tied up 2-2.
Very, very slow play here so far from both teams, and for good reason on that as well. Obviously doesn't explain the entire story of all of our rounds, but technically speaking, the first kill has decided the round on all 4 rounds so far. The 2 rounds where we've seen BDS pick up the opening kill, they followed it through and won. The same thing can be said for DarkZero's 2 also, because they, in addition, found their opening kills on that round. So teams are wanting to be very cautious not to give up that opening death, as it seems to have, at least for now, some ringing effects on the rest of the outcome of the round also. Starts now getting into the actual action phase of the round. However, so let's see how DarkZero will proceed this time, as they've got 2 rounds left on their attack here. Once again, going to be bringing that very similar flare to the table. The buck in check for Canadian this time, on top of the sledge also being brought by NJR, and still seeing the Osa left in play as well. DZ still seemed to favor this one, despite again getting tripped up by it in the previous round. Eclipse getting caught in the middle of the animation, something that you had mentioned we had CAG struggling with earlier in the day as well there, leading to the death of Eclipse. Thankfully, that was one of the few deaths DarkZero suffered over the course of that rush play.
Deployable shield on offense is pretty cool, but not when you really can't fight back while you're setting it up. And that's exactly why we don't see anybody just setting deployable shields up in front of anyone on the defense. They're all done inside of prep phase, but you don't have that same opportunity when you're playing from the offensive side. For BDS now, going to be holding on to the basement level on a horizontal hold here with BIOS out towards lobby. Not starting off as strong as he has in previous games, currently 0-4, and you could say the same about the rest of his squad. Renshiro not exactly in the best of straits either in the current moment.
Canadian seeing some of those tracers come through the floor. He's going to try and hunt this player down quickly. Skeleton keying out the large majority of the penthouse here, using quite a bit of the ammo for it, but giving himself away to Shaiko in the process. And Shaiko will be able to pick up the opening kill. Not the end of the world in terms of soft breach like we were talking about before. Not only did they bring the buck, NJR still has the sledge as well, so they are going to be able to still add that utility. And more importantly, open up the top downs in VIP to try to flush out a couple members of BDS. The first attempt, unfortunately, though, has failed with Shaiko fending it off.
Well, Troy, you said you wanted to play against BDS, and well, that's what you get when you do. Shaiko with some insane play through the soft destruction in the flooring, able to take down Canadian early on here, and BDS limiting DarkZero inside of this round. Finally, Shaiko will be shut down by Hyper. That's the man with the plan that we usually see inside of these fragging areas. Brittle toss a Nitro Cell up top and blow NJR sky high as Alems falls through as well. But here's Pambazoo for the answer. He'll take down BIOS inside of lobby, but still a 3 versus 2 in favor of the defense.
And on fire so far in this game here. It's 7-2 here, counting the kill he just picked up for himself. Unfortunately, not going to be able to carry any further ones into this round, as Alems will catch him on a transition through the main stairs. Just Eclipse on that Osa left alive here, like you were talking about before, the PDW. Good amount of ammo to use inside of that one here, but range on it is going to make some of these longer range fights a bit rough. They'll be able to work towards it though and catch one player off guard, but there's an immediate trade set up from Bride. Quickly collects the last kill there against the Osa and secures another one for BDS as they take the lead, but just barely here at 3-2, heading into the final round of the opening half.
These are not bad rounds from DarkZero, but they've got a lot going on these offenses to where they end up having a lot of people off doing their own thing, and that's exactly why Canadian gets punished here. He has to use his skeleton key to clear up all of these angles for himself, and he has nobody to work them while he's doing so. So it makes it to where he can just immediately be countered out by somebody like Shaiko, who's going to be able to track him through the floor in such an aggressive manner. So for BDS, very well done, but for DarkZero, they got to clean it up just a little bit if they want to try and contest things like that.
So we're going to see a nice little 6-pick come out there for our defensive team. BIOS going over to the Clash now as the team makes another return towards Hookah. This will be good for contending against some of those direct plays if we're going to continue to see the Osha Shields get deployed outside of the hot spots, once again outside that Hookah doorway. And right next to Aqua is where they were deployed last time, so now you can be able to get the Clash in the way of that and stop that play, not only there, of course, but in some other avenues. For instance, if a team tries to sneak in through the VIP wall by Circle Couch, you can be able to block out that hallway and that access point. Lots of options here for the coach to try and get in the way of the advances from DarkZero.
Yeah, I truthfully love this pickup here from BIOS. He's like, well, I'm already 0-5, so I might as well play something so unbelievably annoying that I can do something against DZ. Obviously, with the other ops that he was bringing, it's all still really solid utility to be able to try and help out the defense through those ADSs on Jaeger. But with Clash, he's going to have a more direct route in being effective against DZ. He doesn't have to do it with a gun either. He can just simply slow them down, and I think this is a great read from BIOS as well with the low-timed executes we've been seeing from DZ.
Time continuing to tick down here. And DarkZero only just now entering the map for themselves, so slow times to build up towards here. There's going to be a lot of outside posturing over the course of this round due to the way they played it previously. Need to build up that strength over on the hookah balcony. Build up the capability for you to push in as a team yourself. Even away from that also, members of BDS still going to have a few tricks up their sleeve to get in the way, like the Clash that'll ultimately need to be dealt with, and really not a whole lot of aggressive utility that you can throw from DarkZero's side, save for instance, frag grenades that they can use to get that out of the way either. For instance, you don't have a Zofia that you can use a lifeline charges to easily dispatch of the shield, so might become a bit of a process to actually knock BIOS out here. We'll have to wait and see how it's going to be, but we are going to see that Rotero drone make the jump and unfortunately go a little bit too close to the mute jammers. That first one will be lost again here on this hold.
A little bit too close to the sun yet again here for Canadian, and that's going to be at least one of the Rotero drones down. Still has 3 to go though, so plenty of opportunity to destroy a lot of this utility inside of the site. Barbed wire in the way of Osa at the moment, and BIOS.
Like, yeah, I got a shield too.
Yeah, now what, huh? You're not going to do anything, Osa. I'm going to stand right here and stare at you. We can just have a staring contest between our clear shields that bullets can't possibly penetrate. Minute and 30 seconds here for DZ as they're trying to get things figured out right now on hookah balcony. BDS playing quite patiently. DarkZero's made their move into kitchen again. This is looking very similar to what we saw in the previous hookah round where we saw the Twitch of Pambazoo going nuke. That's when he got those 2 big kills down low inside of Sunrise, and we had every frag grenade hitting for DZ with 3 frag kills inside of that round. Alem's now out towards white, and once again, DZ just really not doing anything yet inside of the round. Another flash in. This one will actually catch Alem's, and Canadian, is he actually going to swing this window? If he does, this is such a freebie for Alem's, and it's very risky as well. He's still got 3 Rotero drones. He should be more dedicated to using these instead of trying to get in towards the actual site from White Stairs.
You can see once again the members of DarkZero struggling to be able to push that Clash out of the way. Like I was mentioning before, no easy stun utility that they can use to push him out, or at minimum cause the kind of glitch there to get the shield to swing out of the way, which would open up a hitbox for members of DarkZero to hit. You have to try and rely on the frag grenades. We are going to see one connect very close to Hyper, but doesn't outright kill him. He panics and jumps off his clone, but there we go. BIOS will get caught by Canadian, and on top of that, Panda finds his opener against Shaiko as well. Those are 2 very important kills for DarkZero, and now they just have to play against the clock here and hope they can get in. They might not even need to go in though. Panda finds a personal second against Renshiro, and Alem's pushing forward here, going to try to fend off the Cool Vibes push. That will work, but he's got additional pressure coming out against him. NJR cleans up the shop with 2 kills coming out for him, and this round goes to DZ.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense for Canadian's positioning on white there. The Rotero drones really didn't matter to the overarching story of that one. Mostly just because he was the counter angle for Luggage. He didn't want anybody to try and rotate in behind his teammates that were playing inside of Aqua, that were setting all of that up, and it just made it to where the aggression was a lot more potent for them, so they were actually able to work the space how they wanted to. Eventually rotates over and is able to work double instead, and just very well done from DarkZero overall. They'll be able to get off of the offensive side at a 3-3 half.
That'll take us back over to the opening of DarkZero's defensive half, where they're going to start things out directly into the double bars here. Once again, looking at operator lineups, no huge surprises here. We're going to get an interesting one from BDS, but not completely unexpected, as the Dokkaebi pick is going to come in for BIOS as well, adding that extra utility and, more importantly, information to the team as they try to work their way in. And also an interesting 6 pick coming out there for DarkZero, as they're going to bring the Frost in instead of the Oryx.
Could be a goodie, could be a baddie.
For this site, it works pretty well.
Yeah, this is one of those sites where Frost is definitely a solid pick, especially just because of the amount of window hops we see. We saw DarkZero abusing this exact window quite a few times through previous rounds, and obviously with a welcome mat there, you're more than likely going to lose some ankles. So
this is also a site that really commonly, in my opinion, gets pushed with like 15, 20 seconds left, and teams just have to force the issue, not checking for things like Frost mats here. So if they can keep those relatively obscure throughout most of the round and just bait wait out a huge amount of time. I think they've got a possibility to catch one, maybe two players.
Yeah, this is looking like it could be a pretty hyperactive round for BDS as well with BIOS on that Dokkaebi. So we could be seeing them go for some pretty aggressive plays across the board, and that's where those frost mats are really going to get in their way because they're not going to be looking at the ground. They're going to be focused on trying to kill people. And that could honestly be very, very strong for DZ.
With the Dokkaebi in play here, just going to clear things out toward the front end of the building. Not a whole lot of action going to be going on. No hugely aggressive plays coming out for DarkZero. Clippers are trying to open up a few holes for himself in case there's going to be some additional pressure on the beginning over by the service door. Not going to see a whole lot of that. And in the meanwhile, still working on reinforcing some things over by the Sunrise bar there as he's putting down that deployable shield to fend off any potential pressure from the kitchen side as well as the upstairs area. Away from that, though, relatively uneventful first 40 seconds of this round. Both teams just taking their time, and now the first call going to come in. And hey, we said it was going to catch someone. We didn't think it was going to happen this early, though. Panba able to knock out Shaiko as well as he walks right into a frost trap.
Canadian's more than likely just got the biggest smile on his face right now. He's like, hey, you might be able to shoot straight, but might want to check your corners there, buddy. Get some drones in there and see what's going on. No one finding Canadian's positioning or the fact that he is frost. But now they'll know. Lems will be able to destroy the frost mat on the blue window, but the damage has already been done in a certain sense. Shaiko is one of the mainstay fraggers for this squad, and with BIOS at 0 and 6, they desperately need him alive.
Yeah, absolutely the case here. They need that second phone call at a minimum to go out here to add the additional intel. The first one thrown out. More likely not able to do much behind it because of the death of Shaiko right there. So having to focus on trying to reposition and readjust their strategy after the loss of a very efficient fragger for this team. They're not going to be able to really capitalize on the information they may or may not have gotten from the initial phone call. Still, we're a little under, rather, half the round to go here, so plenty of time for BDS. They are not forced into making a play anytime soon, but they may very well soon be forced into trying to do something here as Canadian now strikes again. First with the frost mat, now with the rifle, as he's going to pick up a second kill, or at least a second assist on the round, as now Lems gets eliminated by his gun.
A much better game so far from Canadian than what we saw yesterday, and you got to be really happy for the DZ fans at home for that. As for BDS, as of right now, not really too much they can do unless they get some serious picks, and it starts with a pick onto Canadian. Grenade has also moved in and started this plant as well, and do they have the cover? It looks like it'll be able to at least go through, and if Renshiro's able to get done with much, they could possibly win this. Grenade with yet another pick. Oh, make it 3. Can he get 4? No, he can't. He switches to the secondary at the last moment, but it's a smoke grenade to eat him alive from NJR.
Surprising amount of progress gained by BDS on the inside of this round here, bringing it down to a 1v2 as well with the post plant down on the ground. Renshiro just spams in to the counter defuse position there before he has to push himself outside of the toxic babe. No counter defuse attempt yet. He's actually got an angle from far enough back here. Renshiro picking up the first kill against Panba. Now has to lock into the second one. Nearly gets him, and there we go. 2 crosses. Perfect pacing and perfect timing on those shots coming out from Renshiro as well. The discipline is something to be respected here as he has no problem just peppering those shots in through a pinhole to finish out the round.
I gotta love BIOS having some fun too there. The old no with the finger. Not allowed, folks, as Team BDS take the lead over DZ.
So that is going to leave BDS in pole position at the moment here as we move further into the second half. DarkZero certainly going to be stomping their feet a little bit about that one, considering the control they had. Player advantage working in their favor, seemingly great positional control over towards Sunrise, but 2 lone players able to sneak their way into the chassis corner, get the defuse onto the ground, and then get at least 1 player outside into a very powerful position to clutch out what would become the 1v2.
I mean, there's a reason that everyone highlights Bride as one of the highlight support players across the entirety of the world. He is such an insanely gifted player, and it's for moments like that. You don't expect him to get off the planet and just wax 2 people right in behind Sunrise. That's incredible play from him, and something that BDS desperately needed in the moment. If he doesn't hit those shots, they lose that round.
So BDS propelling forward here. We're now going to move over to DarkZero's kitchen defense. A little bit more out and about for the team this time, and hopefully allowing them to more directly contest the play that would come in from BDS, where they did pay a bit too much respect there to the eventual execute that BDS brought in over towards the Sunrise bar. This time, they can play directly against it by putting players inside of the kitchen, over by barrels, a couple other positions to play into as well, in addition to the extensions upstairs and over towards the lobby here, where they can try to waste plenty more of BDS's time bank, which has just started to tick down now from our 3-minute marker. No huge change-ups coming in for their attacking lineup. We are going to see a Lion added in, though. I believe the Zofia also potentially coming in to help this team out also. But aside from that, plenty of soft breach between the Flores as well as the Sledge here to try to open up those opportunities against DZ.
Lion arguably more helpful inside of this situation, but it depends on what you're looking for. He's better for positional things when it comes to how you want to handle the defense. I was really worried Pambazu was going to run outside and dash.
I was waiting for him up there
that.
too. Lem's heard it.
Yeah, there's always risk that people are willing to take, especially when it comes to Oryx, as that just kind of comes with the territory. But either way, Lion obviously a little bit better with the positional, but Dogaby better with the information overall for clearing the map, because you can just immediately hop on the drones once you put that phone call in and just listen for the vibration of the phones. She's so good for clearing out maps very quickly, and that's something we've seen teams use throughout the history of Siege for that exact reason. But, you know, it's just not as bountiful as it once was. And have some Flores drones hop in now and find smoke. And JR will be forced back, at least positioning-wise as of right now. Renshiro not really having an angle to abuse in the moment. But speaking of abuse, Pambazu, oh no.
Did
you hear it?
He didn't hear it. He didn't notice.
Oh my god, please! Oh my god, please! Oh, Pambazu, finally! Renshiro! Dude, somebody get this guy an ear check or something. I don't know. That was just so very strange.
We don't even have a crowd. You don't even have the excuse for that this time around. What happened there, man?
There's just too many French comms being sent back and forth.
Renshiro's not able to hear the, I believe, 3 attempts made from Panba before he eventually connected the shots on to take him down. A bit of a misstep there, and it's going to cost BDS their upper positioning for the time being here. Approaching the 1 minute mark as well, that is certainly going to be a big loss, as now they potentially have to rotate someone over there to take up that mantle, or just not have the vertical pressure whatsoever, forcing them to play this entirely horizontally and making this a bit of a risky play as we approach the final 50 seconds. Rotero drone once again moving in. I believe that one's going to get caught this time. A trade does come in for Balems, but Hyper also finding him as well a second later. Shaiko raiding into this lobby position, though, quickly dispatches of Eclipse and puts us back on even turf.
Well, 40 seconds remain. NJR on site. Hyper out towards jungle, and Pambazu over inside of office currently, with Shaiko manning the door for service. Bios out toward lobby, and Bride working his way towards Shaiko. So it looks like they're going to try and go for a Kegs plant here, as Shaiko starting to push himself forward. He's going to have to defend his planner here, and with minimal seconds remaining, they're more than likely going to try and start things off soon. Pambazu more than likely is going to have an angle up here he might be able to abuse as he gets a little bit closer, but oh no, he dashes. He's not going to be able to find it. Well, if he was able to keep the secondary pistol out, he would have been able to do something, but now it's just all for naught. Pambazu's upstairs. It's a 1 versus 3, and unless he does something insane, this is a BDS round.
Pamba's, well, a little bit upset he's not able to take out Shaiko. Had him in the open for quite a while. Shaiko actually taking him a second to realize where the damage was coming from, but thankfully had enough time to scurry away into the bathrooms and save his own life. 2 players outside of the building now, a third at a tough angle. That is Shaiko, who he's going to be able to finally finish off, but won't even get the kill credit for it, unfortunately, as Bios gets the trade just a tad too quickly. So a clean one comes in from BDS here, and they're going to be able to take another round for themselves as DarkZero call for a timeout.
Easy timeout, and Bios with his first kill of the game, John. Yay! We got
Save Shaiko's life, too.
Yeah, exactly. Able to save his down man, and here's Pambazu's attempt at being the worst assassin we
really have to show this again
in the world. I do not know how Renshiro did not know that was going on. I am so flabbergasted.
I mean, like the first one forward to put themselves into a 1-0 up position here. Talked about this before. The map stats definitely favoring BDS. Just taking a look at them really quickly for Coastline. We're going to have to wait and see how things look, though. So obviously, this is the pick from BDS, and following this one up, we'll be going over to it looks like Villa for our second map there, picked by DarkZero.
Yes, indeed, my friend. And then if we get all the way down to it, we also have Cafe as well, so some pretty interesting maps coming up in between these two, especially from the strategy that we have seen thus far from both of these teams. I think Coastline's definitely been quite a bit of fun, wouldn't you?
Definitely would say so. It's been chaotic at the minimal.
For sure.
We've seen quite a few of these rounds, so BDS going to see if they can give us a few more fun shows here before the map closes out, and DarkZero going to try to claw their way back from the depths here, which is totally possible.
I lied. That's Bios' second kill.
Oh yeah, look at that.
He killed 2 people. That's a lot of kills, actually.
Not too bad.
I mean, depending on the way that you look at it. But,
I mean, subjectively, look, only 1 kill behind Renshiro at this point, so.
I mean, he's an Xbox gamer. He's not even supposed to be good at M&K. So 2 kills up against DarkZero, I mean, hell, I'd take it.
Absolutely. So, once again, I think someone mentioning before, he's like, oh, just let him hook up the controller.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any rules against it. Like, so
you can use whatever input device that you want. I'm waiting for somebody to show up with like an Oculus Rift.
Technically, Siege is cross input for its esports seed, as far as I am aware. Someone feel free to correct me on that if I'm wrong. But For those who don't play Siege, you might be wondering why there isn't any, and to give you a very quick answer, there is no form of any type of aim assist or anything like that for controllers in multiplayer, so yeah, that gives them a pretty big disadvantage.
Well, it's not even that. It is that, but also secondly...
It's pretty much that, yeah.
Secondly, you also can't lean unless you aim.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So, like, info peeking, jiggle peeking, all that kind of stuff, it's not as strong as it is just playing M&K overall. So, either way, BDS... now out and about here on the map is about a minute in now. Shaiko trying to work his way into Sunrise, almost clips a DarkZero member there as he's just sending shots through the Sunrise wall. BDS already using one of their EE1Ds from BIOS as they're droning out Office currently. Nothing really else going on over inside of this space. I do believe that they have Eclipse down low to worry about inside of this area, so we'll have to see exactly what they can do as they clear out the rest of the utility inside of the space.
Yep, quick dispatch of the Banshee with those explosive drones once again coming in. Lems does have his drone in position, is going to be able to spot out at least one member of DarkZero here. That drone, I believe, was spotted by the member of DarkZero also, so they should be well aware of that. I believe it's going to be Eclipse on the other side of this fight. Indeed, that is the case. Eclipse very much ready to take on the challenge, though. He is primed, ready to go for an aggressive swing, but his opponent is watching that angle. The patience from Eclipse is certainly warranted right now, as if he tries to go out, very good chance he could get his head immediately popped off, as you can see that once again from Lem's POV. Renshiro, in the meanwhile, looking for a path to work his way into the site towards the bars, chucking in those nades, seeing if they can knock out some utility as well. Canadian nearly getting himself shredded away as he goes down to about 10% of his HP here, with very little damage returned, it looks like, on a Shaiko.
Unfortunate right now for DarkZero, but they've been able to stem off BDS for the time, and this patience almost working out for Eclipse, but he's giving it up now as BIOS obviously knowing of the location here for Eclipse. Continue to watch that timer though, because as it dwindles, BDS has got to do something, and although they have done some damage, DarkZero still at max capacity for the moment. This plant looking to go down inside of Sunrise as Brede moves his way back over towards Mud. Renshiro and Lems will take down two DZ bodies. NJR able to take down an initial one, but not before Shaiko fires back onto Canadian. Pambazoo with one. He'll try and cross outside, but with that new timer, it's going to be made very difficult. And it's going to get a free read to BDS, but now with an M590 in hand, it's BIOS versus NJR, who's currently sitting in behind couch. Can he find him? Oh! Through the wall, the M590 to get it done from range.
Shotgun coming in clutch here for DarkZero as they're able to win out a near impossible fight at the end of that one, going towards, I believe, a 3v5 at one point, but DarkZero bring it back for themselves regardless, staying in this fight here and putting themselves once again only one round away from tying it up versus BDS. Next site going to come up for DZ, and they'll head back over towards Kitchen now that they have finally taken control of the reattempt over on Bars. Let's go for round two on the Kitchen as well, see if they can batten down the hatches there and make sure that things will lock in to be able to tie the game up at what would be 5-5.
Now, it was a patience game for DZ that got them pretty far ahead inside of that. Obviously, BDS were able to start the frags, but it was a little bit too late because once they start actually going for the entry, DarkZero is just able to trade out along with them and make things quite difficult. Obviously, BIOS has to play safe, not only because of his utility, but also because he's just simply that counter angle that's supposed to exist inside of Office to make things a little bit easier for BDS as they try and take control of that Sunrise area. And honestly, he's not expected to win that going into those last moments either. It's going to be very hard for him inside of a close quarters fight with one of those SAS operators. So unfortunate events for him, but for BDS, close, but no cigar.
So BDS will look for another victory here on a site that they have been able to take for themselves once again by fending off a lot of the aggressive early pressure there and actually being able to force themselves onto the site despite losing their own vertical pressure. We obviously had that bit of a goofy fight go on. Panda able to steal the life away from Renshiro. Doubt he'll be making that same mistake again, but we will still see Team BDS execute in a very similar way, looking to take that control, open up all the angles, flush out these extended players from DarkZero, even the well locked in players over towards areas like barrels and whatnot, and eventually leave a wide enough path open into the site and feel the confidence needed to go for their executed. Jackal going to be brought in by Lems this time as well to try and make the job of hunting down those mobile players from DarkZero upstairs a bit easier.
And the PDW as well being brought along for the ride. I'm going to keep referencing every single time that we see it just because it's such an interesting gun, but we don't get to talk about it that much because Eclipse is immediately going to decapitate a Lems as he comes into Office, and well, you might have wanted to use that Jackal utility.
Yeah, it didn't even seem like he didn't see the footsteps on the floor, so he just didn't even expect anyone to be in that hallway, it looks like.
He just didn't really care.
I think he did check it, to be fair, like in the dying moments as he made the swing, but it's just, yeah, there wasn't, I don't think he personally expected anyone to be there, so wasn't really mentally prepared for the fight.
Which is honestly a little strange because a lot of the times when we see Kitchen being held, there's a lot of people on the horizontal that we have seen throughout most of this LAN. Like, yes, upstairs is quite important, and we'll see them try and contest that, but having somebody over in the security/office area is not a strange thing in the slightest.
Yep, absolutely the case here. So a bit of a slip up from BDS. Loses the anti-roam capability here, meaning DarkZero have a bit more freedom in that aspect as well to try and get aggressive against the remaining members of BDS and see if they can catch even more of them. DarkZero has made himself over towards the VIP area where he's going to start slapping open some holes down below into the kitchen here. Nearly finds a player as well through that method, but unfortunately is going to miss the mark just a tad. That player will still return, though, to challenge the angle in the event that DarkZero or someone else from BDS wants to go back in towards an nade. Will roll in. Nearly is able to catch our player inside of kitchen as well, but I think it banks a corner and heads away from NJR, keeping him safe for yet another potential engagement.
That was an uncooked nade that Shaiko tossed. I didn't know necessarily what he was going to do with that. Whenever you tossed an uncooked nade, there's a lot of different ways that you can play around it. You can maybe try and make an aggressive play, you know, time it with the explosion, do a bunch of different things, make it hold door for you while you're doing other things. There's a bunch of different options, but for him, it seemed more or less like he just wanted to see if somebody was possibly going to get stuck with that and it could do some damage. But all the damage that has been done has actually been dealt onto Shaiko instead. BDS is going to get some top control and is actually going to pay off for them as Brede will get one. Eclipse will actually fire back onto BIOS, though, so they'll keep their man advantage.
Shaiko incredibly low as well from another fight, so he's down with just a sliver of HP remaining. Ranchero and Brede going to have to do the large majority of the heavy lifting, as they're the only ones that can really get into a team fight now. That is, of course, unless Shaiko just going to headshot every player he goes up against, stealing nearly as much life from Eclipse that has been taken away from himself earlier on, and coming close to taking out another player there as well, hiding behind the front desk over in the lobby. Ranchero trying to look for a clean path to get downstairs and maybe even finish off that player, but the hop down through the hatch a little bit too risky. Tries to open it up from behind instead, but won't find anything there. And now time is too low. BDS have no choice. They have to force their way in somehow. Brede is alone, pushing in through service door. Canadian starting to fend off the upstairs presence, and there you go. 3 players dead in a matter of a second or two, and DZ has no trouble whatsoever cleaning up the rest of that resistance.
Yeah, now that was a great round from DarkZero there. I really loved their positioning that they had inside of the dying moments of that round. BDS couldn't find a single member. They walked into the crossfires that DC had set up for the entirety of the space that BDS had to actually walk through. So very well done from them, and that's going to be back-to-back rounds to tie us up here and prevent BDS from getting onto match point.
Penthouse is up next on the docket here for DarkZero as well, which means Mira is going to come into the fold. She made it out of the ban pool, and that means that Penthouse becomes a lot more viable to play into here, even with the more recent ways we've seen teams play into the site. It doesn't necessarily require her anymore, but still she can be a very, very nice addition if she is left available on those rare times.
And the recent buffs as well to the VIP space with the 2 new walls, as well as the bookshelf being extended in there as well to make it a little bit easier to play, just because it was actually pretty complex to play previously. Just having the window there for the circle couch room or VIP or whatever you guys want to call it was not fun in the slightest. Let me tell you, as somebody that had to man that area, it is probably one of the worst places to play in Siege in the way that it was previously. But now you can actually do things, which is good. The big thing, though, is that DarkZero might not actually want to do that in the moment. They don't have any wall denial, and that's the scary thing. Good news is that BDS don't exactly have the greatest hard destruction for walls. They have hard destruction, but obviously Haban is a little bit better at hatches. She'll still be able to break open the wall and get some vision in there that they can obviously abuse, but it's not going to be a massive hole like Thermite.
So for the members of BDS, they are going to continue to look for ways to find success on this attacking side. No major changes once again to the operator lineup, just a couple switches that we do get here and there. BIOS does bring the Lion into play, but that'll be swapped out for the Jackal as Alems goes back over towards the Zofia.
Very interesting. Going to castle barricade square here, make it to where the VIP hall is much more playable. Saw that from BDS, or rather a team earlier on Coastline, reinforcing those windows and just making it harder to actually get any visual sight of what's going on so they can gather info very easily. Old version of Coastline, this rooftop was camped constantly, and usually it was camped by Lion with his DMR. just because of how much damage you could do with that thing. But nowadays, not so much. It's a lot more actually in the building gameplay, which is, I'm pretty sure, exactly what Ubisoft wanted when they remade this map. Make it to where people actually get inside of the building to play Coastline instead of killing half the team from the roof.
See, the X-Kairos is being used to quickly deal with the mirror window supporting the 90 hold here. Second one's a bit deeper in the site, so won't be able to immediately take that out yet, but we'll have the option to do so over the next few seconds once they're able to take a better Hall of Fame control for themselves and kind of build up the confidence to go for the swing in from there. That is, of course, assuming that we are going to see BDS try to use that position to pressure into the site here. It's fairly light near the site right now for BDS, only just now starting to kind of encroach upon it now that they've taken out that mirror window and have the capability to put more pressure on it, and there is a lot of extended pressure still to be made. However, Shaiko starts things out well here as he's able to get that nice little mine thrown in from below against Canadian, taking him out once again with a frag grenade.
And this is what we've been seeing this entire LAN, is how important frag grenades and the positioning of those overall are to the offense and how they're able to disrupt a lot of these defensive members. Canadian is the crux of this entire defense here, playing these mirrors inside of theater. Luckily enough, NJR is inside of this space. We're able to take at least some health away from Renshiro, but more nades pouring in now. NJR going to take a little bit of damage, but he's got a long road ahead of him here. Drone will be able to get some info, but he'll be able to tag that up. They still know that he's in this back space here, and Hyper with a cheeky angle all the way out towards Vase. Pambazoo will actually be able to clean up that one, as actually Shaiko is the one to enter into, I believe, VIP.
Well, I'm still looking for an angle for himself to work with here against DZ, but no reason for them to show themselves. They continue to hold back, continue to bait out the time, and continue to look for kill opportunities as NJR is able to find out Brede and eliminate him, leaving the numbers a bit more even and a bit more in the favor of DarkZero here as we come down to the dying seconds of the round. And once again, BDS struggle to find any clear path forward here as DZ plays in that slow and methodical sort of setup that they are known for. Two trades continue to go out, but Alems with some big pickups here. Two of his own. His teammates found one also, so suddenly DarkZero been brought down to only NJR. He's going to be able to trip out one player, but a great reaction. It's Bios. It's the coach to clutch it out. With only a few seconds left in the round, he gets the final kill and is going to be able to pick one up instead for BDS, pushing them up on the map point.
I'm an unofficial Bios stan. I'm just going to put it out there. That was some fantastic stuff from him as BDS are able to clean it up there in the dying moments. All comes down to NJR, and he hits his beautiful shot initially, but this is where he gives up the bag, folks. He should have never stood up right there. Him committing to that gunfight right there just ends up losing them the round overall, and that's one of those split-second decisions that just come back to bite you sometimes in Siege. So unfortunate there for DZ, but BDS finally able to get this 6th round after they've been struggling with it for the past 2.
Great stuff once again from BDS, able to finally find that clear path into the site, which had been kind of evading them on the previous ones that have been selected out by DarkZero.
Man, this scoreline from Hyper is just so poor. 3-7 at the moment. And you know, it's very strange because we saw Hyper actually do pretty well, I would say, for our Stage 3 playoffs when it came to the the NAL. But as of right now and yesterday, I haven't seen a game from Hyper where I was like, oh yeah, Hyper's really on in the moment. And that might be due to the fact of, just growing pains like Canadian was talking about. They've been going through role changes and trying to get these things figured out. But, it's made it to where Hyper just seems stale, for the time being.
That's really unfortunate too, because Hyper is generally a player we known for being a positive contribution to his team, and
not only positive, but like disgusting. Like,
yeah. I was checking out there. Obviously we had Paula, I think, went like plus 1,000 or whatever, and just that game we had before with Team Liquid, and they posted those like the leadership stats, and I know he was somewhere in that like top 10 list as well, and they were like 5 or 6 in terms of the most positive players in the global Siege pro community right now. So a little unfortunate that he's not able to find that performance at least here in the first map. Potentially 2 more still to come, however, so his day may still yet be found.
Yeah, speaking of that list, Shaiko's on that list as well.
Oh, yeah.
Up there near the top. I think he was somewhere around like the 600 to 700 range, which is just insane. To possibly think that you have 1,000 more kills, but for Palu, 1,000 more kills than deaths inside of professional play, where people that are paid to play the video game are attempting to kill you, you have 1,000 more kills than you do deaths. That's just insanity.
That list had like a crazy drop-off, too, from Pala as well. I think Nesk was on there also, so 2 of them are players from Team Liquid.
He's at like 928.
First and second, and then it goes from like 1,800, and then it drops down to like 600 or something like that after that. So
imagine just casually having those 2 on your team. I'm just pointing that out. Like,
massive
come on,
stats
man.
to be sure. Here we go. Already at just the 2-minute mark, you can see BDS trying to quickly open things up over by the pool door. Gonna find out it's gonna be a bit more of a process than they were expecting, as you will see the Aruni laser gate blocking that one off, as well as now the main door gate being reignited here. So another piece of utility gonna need to be chucked in for BDS if they do want to get rid of it. Looks like they'll burn the Gemini to accomplish that.
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll keep it real with you folks. It's not gonna be that big of a deal, mostly because they have the X-Skyros from Bride. That makes it to where these clearing of laser gates is very straightforward. Frag grenade in, it's gonna get eaten up by the ADS, but that's to be expected inside of that Sunrise space. Just unfortunate that Shaiko didn't have anybody there to burn that, but they still got plenty of time here. They're still looking into the site to see where they can possibly try and gather some information. Oh my god, Renshiro is so very close to removing the head of the player inside of Hookah. He's just tapping the walls here. Bios walks in, he'll remove the head of Pambazoo, and that's the top frag gone from DZ to the coach of BDS.
The coach of BDS is fragging out, it seems, here, approaching a positive KD, but Canadian going to be able to thankfully stop his wrath here inside of this first round as he trades him back out and sends us towards a 4v4. BDS, though, are suddenly holding back as a result of losing Bios' position. Not going to be able to get the Lion Scan, the EE1D charge out anymore, as they won't have good confirmation on the positions from anyone on DZ, and that seems to scare them away, wanting to use a bit more of their remaining time back, because they were going for a fairly early execute, to be fair, to maybe re-drone things and just recheck it before they go in.
Loving what we're seeing from Canadian here with the positioning in behind Sunrise. He knows that more than likely somebody's going to attempt to get aggressive here. If Shaiko hops this at all, he is done. That M590 will truthfully eat him alive. Eclipse with a nice prone angle inside of the actual space here, but oh my god, that's 2, and actually Canadian's gonna get bodied by Bride as he hops over. Eclipse with a trade, and now it's into Shaiko and Eclipse. The case control back in Shaiko's hands. Does he have a read onto the positioning of Eclipse though? Currently over inside of blue. Shaiko going to stick the plant, and he'll be able to get it off here in behind Sunrise. Eclipse seemingly unaware of this plant going on.
So plant gets itself onto the ground here, however, nearly leaning into it. If he crouches up, Eclipse should have his read on him here. Both players dodging each other. Shaiko sneaks off some important shots, but Eclipse reads into the peak and gets a triple on the round, as well as saves DarkZero on this map as he pushes it into overtime at 6-6.
Eclipse was the only DZ member yesterday to light up the scoreboard, and he's here for the clutch moment up against one of the greatest fraggers in the history of Rainbow Six to push us into overtime. DarkZero able to keep us alive here on Coastline.
So we go the full distance on map number 1. Had to end yesterday with a full 3-map series that seemed to go just as far, and we may very well be in for another one here as well to end out day number 2. Both these teams hunting for some form of success in their group to try and solidify their position in the playoff bracket in just a few days' time. Both of them absolutely want to take the victory here, but only one can walk away with the lion's share of points. So let's see who gets the ultimate advantage by taking the first map here as we go into overtime. 3 more rounds to decide who gets this number 1.
DarkZero will be stuck onto defense yet again here for OT, as they'll be getting 2 rounds here. Just to explain to you guys how OT works, it is not max OT here, as DarkZero will have 2 defensive rounds as well as 1 offensive round. We'll switch back and forth every single time, so obviously it'll be vice versa for BDS.
All right, so back over to the kitchen again for the DarkZero camp in things, as kitchen went fairly well here for the members of DarkZero, able to obviously drop it on the first time, but great adjustment on the second attempt and won it confidently there. So going to be able to take control of it one more time, or at least attempt to be able to take the early advantage here in overtime and make that attacking round only an optional pickup here, as they'll obviously have the second defensive round to fall back on as well here. For BDS, in the meanwhile here, they're really going to have to keep their wits about them and make sure that they have the capability to close out on this one. As once again, DarkZero's already learned their tricks and what they were able to bring to the table on previous attacks here, so it really falls to them to make adjustments here.
Now BDS out and about. That's once again up as well. So see if we can get some more traction out of these EE1Ds. Some drones going on the top floor as they're looking to clear things out. Obviously, this is going to be the kitchen defense, as John was talking about, for DarkZero. So the abuse of the verticality is going to be paramount to their success. Renshiro looking to do some serious damage with that sledgehammer to this top floor. BDS will be holding the angle for white stairs as of right now to prevent any of the DZ members from rotating upstairs from lobby, but it doesn't really seem like they want anything to do with that in the current moment anyways.
Just seeing so far. Only the initial clear coming in from BDS as they're once again going to work on that top-down control, sledging out the angles, and this is honestly where we've seen the first kill come from quite often here. Either BDS over-aggressing their position here, getting caught out by something like a Nitro Sellers to player with a good angle from the bottom side, or quite obviously the opposite happening with BDS able to isolate out a member of DZ. Neither going to occur here, though, as DarkZero have avoided all positions that have been opened up by BDS here. Really only one player from DarkZero full committed in the site at this point. That's their smoke, which could obviously delay the push should he get aggressed upon, but not anymore. We're going to see him get knocked out here by Renshiro as he finally locks onto his angle, and that should be calling for the rest of DarkZero to quickly get back in position as they no longer have any capability to lay against an execute.
Very well done, but the issue as of right now for DZ, although I don't know if BDS knows this, is that they're completely evacuated from the site. Canadian is the closest man here as he's sitting in jungle at the bottom of Vibes. Alems will pick up Hyper, who, yet again, just not having a good game. 3-9 in the current moment. They desperately need him to step up and get something for the team as BDS is starting to pull ahead. Alems almost able to take out Pambazoo, but Pambazoo just better inside of the situation. Alems not able to land shots in any critical way.
Saving the player count a little bit here. Messy rotate for Shaiko, who does have to dump some ammo to be able to open that up a bit more, and that's a huge bell being rung, allowing for Eclipse to get into position with plenty of advanced warding to instead take him out, instead of allowing once again for Shaiko to make that transition and get into a more powerful position here. 35 seconds remain. BDS still need to make a lot of forward momentum, and yeah, they've got some early damage onto Eclipse, but you can see this for two of their players. They have virtually zero positioning to play from here and are really going to have to fight for every inch as DarkZero has the full playground for the most part at their disposal. Only 20 seconds left, however, BDS are going to strike true, finding their opener against Panba. Canadian quick on the trade, though, keeps the numbers even at a 2v2. Bio's hunting for the player closer towards blue, but can't seem to find him. They have no idea of Eclipse's position either. Low HP, it doesn't matter. He's going to knock out the coach, leaving just Renshiro without much of a hope of being able to push his way in no case control. The timer will run out, and DarkZero will take the first round of overtime.
Yeah, very awkward round there for BDS overall, especially for Shaiko, as he probably wasn't very happy about having to clean up the defense's rotates to be able to use it. He's like, I guess I'll have to do it myself. He's just like knocking out the bottom half of the wall. But as you said, that was just the dinner bell being rung for the defense of DZ, as they'll be able to get not only him, but the remainder of the BDS members and claim that round. Now pulling ahead once again here as they'll try and win out Coastline here on their offensive side.
Kitchen is going to be the choice site once again for BDS. We'll return to that one more time here as they also look to try and leverage their own defensive round to push us all the way to number 15 here, where all the cards will be laid out on the table to potentially determine our winner. A 6-pick will come in here, although it's not going to be a huge game changer, just moving from one form of clear utility to another as Canadian goes once again over towards a Zofia this time around. Setup from BDS shouldn't be too crazy either. A lot of the same pictures being brought in that we saw from DarkZero just in the previous round, even an Oryx being replicated here from Alems as well to either open up those rotates or add that additional rotation pressure and just overall vertical pressure with his ability to move upstairs at will through the open hatches.
Well, looking a little deeper into the site setup here, we will have the stacking of utility from Bios and Shaiko to try and prevent as many throwables from coming into service area. Also have some Banshees along for the ride and the likes of Renshiro, so slowing down DarkZero's entry will be a pretty big boon for them if they're able to do so. Some mute jammers around as well, just for some prevention of info and other things, to see exactly what this will be able to do for them inside of the round. Also got some proxies here on Alems as well, so information abound for BDS to possibly abuse going into this possibly final round.
Makes sense for Alems to be able to have those motion detectors, just considering he's going to be playing for a very wide amount of real estate.
Well, if he uses them.
Yeah, that's the other part here. He hasn't actually chucked either one of them out yet, so very well could have accidentally just had those selected here if we weren't expecting him to play on the Oryx. That's a possibility. Keep in mind, folks, that our players are on a completely different version of the game than they would play at home. So considering that, they do have to reset all their kits and whatnot when they log in.
That's funny. Well, my disc ended up catching the smoke, so it just pops it up on the actual like ceiling. It always
that won't work too well for the attackers here.
It's a one-way for Shaiko.
It's a one-way for the Shaiko and the rest of BDS, though. So BDS will certainly be happy about
We never get to talk about one-ways in this game either, so that's something that we never see inside of Siege.
You're not really able to purposefully set them up to your advantage under most circumstances there, especially for these magnets, as you have no idea what type of nade is going to be thrown at those. So
like one big old Nimbus just sitting there.
When it does happen, it's a complete accident, unfortunately. So very rarely does it end up being plumed, and very rarely even further will it ever be challenged. We're going to continue to see Lems just waddle his way around the map, and he did actually chuck out those motion sensors, by the way, so is using them in some capacity. I don't think to too much effectiveness, though, as DarkZero is not looking like they're going to put too much pressure upstairs. Up until now here, Pan, but getting the read onto a Lems and just shredding him from the long-range drone spot. Nicely done. Doesn't even need a teammate to do that. Does the whole job by himself.
Now, the question, is this it? DarkZero have taken full control of the top floor. They've gotten rid of Lems, which was the nuclear option for this top floor attack. And now BDS have to try and play this out from the site and horizontally. We can see a player all the way across the map trying to motion up blue stairs right now. That's Renshiro. He's made it inside of Hookah and now trying to transition over into the actual billiard space. So he's found some area to work around inside of this area. Could possibly get some crossfire going in over towards Guitar as Shaiko trying to pre-fire the sledge upstairs as they're continuing to limit this time.
Going to do a wild goose chase with that spray right there, trying to see if he can maybe get lucky with a few bullets, but not going to happen. And the things just continue to get worse here, unfortunately, for BDS. 2 more kills roll in from DarkZero. Bios and Renshiro, the only ones left. Renshiro strikes true, but Bios is knocked down, and Canadian follows up with one more of his own. It's going to be DarkZero rebounding to take control of the opening map of the series as they go up 1-0 against BDS.
Oh, fantastic stuff from both squads, but BDS not able to pull it out with their coach. And fortunately enough for Hyper, the team there to be by his side.